Afternoon, guys. Yes, I'm quite flabbergasted, to be perfectly honest with you, to see these numbers. Obviously, we knew that the Conservative Party hadn't gripped this issue with anywhere near the level of strength that they needed to. But to see that their approach to clearing a backlog, which is already grown beyond all belief, is to essentially just wave through everyone that's already in the system, just shows that the Conservative Party really are not taking this issue seriously. And they
Robert,
are
is that what's going on then, in your view, that the Home Office, in a bid to reduce that backlog, to cut down on that backlog and get rid of it entirely, is just waving through applications with very quick decision-making?
Oh, of course it is. It absolutely is. I mean, I think it's quite a clear comms strategy that the government are approaching this issue with. They're simply looking to grab the headline of backlog cleared, and hope that that will suffice, and people will think, okay, this is a competent government that recognises the seriousness with which we treat this issue and are prepared to really put some muscle behind it. But quite frankly, I mean, the other figures, I think 5.4 billion a year now being spent on hotels and associated services. It just shows that the Rwanda scheme from the get-go is doomed to fail, and the fact that we've now wasted coming up to 3 years behind this process is wasted time and now huge wasted costs.
And yet we still have a backlog that is enormous, over 100,000 cases. This is down 20%. Surely it's not every instance where their people are being waved through. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a backlog at all. Surely there is some sort of sense that there is some process here.
Well, so the 130,000 that are in the current backlog are what are referred to as non-legacy cases. So they're essentially cases that have resumed since Rishi Sunak took over the helm. So, they are basically trying to mop up previous errors before they can even get over to the errors that they are currently presiding over. I would like to point out that I do think it's pretty rich for the Labour Party to be casting aspersions that the Conservative Party are a failure and completely flapping on this issue, given that I don't think I've heard a single credible suggestion put forward by them through the entirety of this debate. I think the only proposal that they've actually put forward that seems concrete is greater cooperation with the EU, which essentially means that we end up with a greater number of asylum seekers that we're having to process.
Isn't that one of the big points here, that there is a greater movement of people around the world? We're seeing it on the southern border of the United States, we're seeing it in the English Channel, we're seeing it through the Mediterranean, we're seeing it in Greece, in Italy. The number of people being accepted for asylum in France and Germany is higher than that in the UK. Is there anything any government can do in the wave of what is a global movement affecting every country?
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's been some quite large-scale multilateral agreements over the last 5-10 years trying to effectively, I'd argue, liberalise the borders even greater. Things like the Global Compact for Migration in 2018, greater jurisprudence and focus from lawyers on things like the Refugee Convention. They're all set up essentially to further liberalise the border process. I don't think there's been any concerted effort to reassert the importance of national sovereignty when it comes to issues of the border.